Alright, so today we're going to be talking about the Columbian Exchange, which happened pretty much after the exploration of the Americas, done by the Europeans, specifically the Spanish, and spearheaded by the Portuguese. So essentially what the Columbian Exchange was a global transfer of food, plants, and animals. So pretty much Europeans came to the Americas and they brought many different animals, plants, and even diseases as well. And they found some that they weren't entirely familiar with in the past, which they brought back to the old world. So this gives a rise to a new system of capitalism. So now we start seeing more free enterprise, a lot of development of economies, a lot of competition between different businesses and corporations in order to make a profit. This new system of capitalism ends up making a lot of individuals really, really rich, and it also helps nations become very wealthy and put some into a position where they become the powerhouse of the time. This also gives rise to a system of mercantilism in which colonies pretty much go and act as sources of wealth for the mother country. And what I mean by that is pretty much these colonies are areas where people take resources or they take multiple different things and they make settlements and they use all of the things and all the things that they gather and they send them back to the mother country or the country of origin for the colonizers. And this usually helps them make their country really, really rich, really wealthy because they're able to afford and get new resources which they can put into a system of production and consumption. And because of all of this, we see a merchant class beginning to arise in Western Europe. We don't really have that in Western Europe at the time, so this happens as well. So here is a depiction of essentially what the Columbian Exchange was, and you can see from the old world came a lot of different things, so like onions, olives, tulips, tomatoes came from the New World. So, but it's interesting to note that, you normally would think about something like Italy, and you think about Italian food with so much tomato sauce, like pasta, and pizza has tomato sauce, but there were no tomatoes in Italy for a really long time. They're actually naturally from the New World. Same with potatoes, which is, again, extremely interesting because in Ireland they had a really big potato blight and a really big problem when the potatoes died and everyone starved. But we know this definitely will have to be after the period of colonization of the Americas when the potato is introduced to Ireland. Yeah, and you can see on the side there are so many diseases that were brought to the New World that so many people ended up perishing from because they didn't have an immunity. And this will influence a lot of different things with the native population, but that's something we'll explain as we go further. Alright, so as far as Spanish America goes, this is a little bit more straightforward, but we have different things going on. So in the Caribbean, we have Columbus establishing the first European colony, or more specifically Spanish colony of Hispaniola, which makes up modern-day Haiti and the Dominican Republic. It's just that island. As well as Puerto Rico, Cuba, Panama, and northeastern coast of the South America ends up being under Spanish control. They take most of that. And they end up starting this system called the encomienda system, in which essentially people have to work on plantation-style farms, so really large farms which they make things to sell. And more specifically, natives end up being forced to work on these plantations, and they're exploited, and many die because of overworking and disease. We also have gold hunting, slaving, and disease, which ends up killing off many people on the island or forcing them to move because they can't deal with the conditions. We also have some forts that are pretty famous, like the one in Havana, which is in Cuba, the one in Santo Domingo, which is in the Dominican Republic, and the one in San Juan, which is in Puerto Rico. And I've personally been to that fort, and it's actually really impressive. It's on the side of a cliff that leads into the ocean. And then lastly, disease and conquest really destroy the population of natives in the Caribbean. A lot of people end up dying from either just being killed, overworked, or dying from disease. And so when the natives die off, there is no one left to do the work. So essentially, the European colonizers end up bringing in slaves to work the plantations to replace the natives that died.